Hi there, everyone, and thank you for joining today. This is part 4 of 20 in our Dapt mini-series, talking all things Microsoft 365. Today, we're going to be looking at Microsoft Forms, so how to capture and engage with Microsoft Forms. Okay, so let's start off with a few introductions. My name is Stephen Port. I'm the co-founder and director at Dapt UK. I'm a Microsoft Teams and Information Protection Certified Principal Consultant and been working with the Microsoft 365 stack for around about 12 years now. So all the way from SharePoint on-premise as it moved towards Office 365 and Microsoft 365. I'll now hand over to Daniel, who'll be running the session today.
Sure, Steve, thanks very much. Yeah, much like Steve, I've been working with SharePoint since version 2007, I think. So worked with SharePoint through the various on-prem environments before getting into Microsoft 365. Since then, I've been a consultant for close to 10 years on Microsoft products. I'm a Microsoft MCSE and MCSA. And really, I enjoy kind of helping customers to navigate their way through Microsoft 365 and really get the most out of the platform. So thanks to Steve for the introduction. So today we're going to be focusing on Microsoft Forms. So Microsoft Forms is a really great product. So why would we use Microsoft Forms? Microsoft Forms is a great tool for collecting data from employees. So whether it be surveys, well-being, votes, polls, and there's a whole host of different things we can do with Microsoft Forms, and it can replace some of those third-party tools that people are using. We've engaged with customers in the past that are using tools such as SurveyMonkey and various other platforms, and more often than not, they can kind of replace a large percentage of that functionality with Microsoft Forms. And the great thing about Microsoft Forms is that it integrates with everything else in the Microsoft stack. So we'll be covering that a bit later as well. As well as forms, we've also got quizzes. So we'll cover off quizzes as well. So you can use these to test your employees, whether that be as part of a training program, but we'll cover that off as part of this training as well. And then we'll look at kind of other aspects such as kind of collecting data from external users. So forms can be used externally as well. So as I mentioned, we'll cover off the form types, and we'll go through the various different question types available within that as well. We'll also look at the range of settings and features available. So there's a few of the settings are quite hidden, but there's some more advanced stuff in there. Microsoft are constantly evolving the Forms product. When it first came out, it was quite a simple product, but we've found that it's actually evolved quite a lot over the last year or two. So definitely some stuff I want to show you there, and then I'm going to show you some integrations as well. So Forms is actually probably one of the most integrated tools in terms of the Microsoft 365 platform. So I'll be showing you how we can integrate that with Teams, with emails, with SharePoint, PowerPoint, and even integrating it with Stream. So you can have forms that actually pop up halfway through a stream video, which is really great for things like training and those kind of things. We'll also leave you with a few tips, hopefully, along the way. So we'll cover those off as we go, I think. So with that, before we dive into the demo, I don't want to spend too long on the slides. We're just going to do a quick poll. So I think Steve is going to put a poll up there. And I guess this is the first integration. So this is an integration with obviously Teams, and there's actually a couple of ways we can integrate these forms with Teams. You should now see a Forms poll pop up as part of your Windows screen. It'd be great if you could just take a second to just fill this out before we jump into the demo, and then we'll get started. So I definitely use Microsoft Forms. Okay, great. Give you a couple more seconds, and then I think we'll crack on. Okay, so onto the demo itself. I've got a demo environment set up here with all my various different Microsoft 365 tools. Forms is available via the waffle up at the top. You can see it here. If you don't see it in your initial list, if you click on all apps, it should take you to that. So the landing page for Forms will show you any forms that you've recently created. I can also pin forms that I want to keep to the top of the list. So if you're working on a lot of forms, so that list might get quite long. So you can actually go in and pin one of these forms so that they're available in that pin list. And I can see forms that other people have shared with me. So forms don't just have to be something that you create and run yourself. You can actually share those with other people. So, and not just in terms of collecting results, but actually being able to see the results and edit the form itself as well. So first up, I'm going to show you how to create a new form. So up at the top here, by default, because my tenant isn't a educational tenant, it will default to forms. If I was in an educational tenant, it will actually default to quizzes. So if I want to create a quiz, I just have to click on the drop down on the right hand side there, and I can go to a quiz. But I'm going to jump in and just create a really simple form just to show you how it works from the start. A bit later on, I'll jump into some slightly more complex forms where we've used some more of the settings available to us. But for this one, I'm just going to create a really simple form. You can see the first thing it gives me is the pretty much a blank template to start with. So I can come in here and give my form a name. So I'm going to say this is training requests. I can add this description here if I want to add a bit more information. And then I get the option here to add different question types. So if I click add new, you can see it shows me the kind of 4 most popular question types. So we've got choice, which is a kind of multiple choice option. I can allow people to select one option or multiple options. I've got a text field, and I can allow people to put in a simple one-liner text, or I can allow them to put in a larger text field. We've got a rating scale, which is kind of like a 1 to 5 rating scale, so you can allow people to score it by stars or numbers. And then if you there's a date picker as well, which is quite useful. And then actually, if I click on the drop down box here, we've got a few additional options that you might want to explore, and I'll show you what these look like a bit later in one of our other forms. But we've got ranking, so this allows us to enter multiple choices, and users can use the up and down arrows to set the order of priority. We've got the Likert scale, which you may have seen before. So this allows us to put statements down the left hand side and put options across the top. So this is typically used for those kind of questions like where you want people to score how well trained or how deep their knowledge is in something. So I could put what is your knowledge of Microsoft Forms? Not much, a little bit. I'm okay with it. Good, excellent. Whatever it might be. We can build out those questions with this kind of question. We've also got the file upload. Now this is an important one. File upload can only be used if you're doing this form internally. If you want to do an external form, file uploads aren't available. And we've also got the Net Promoter Score. So this gives you a kind of allows you to kind of test the water with a question to see whether people are positive or have negative sentiments to that particular statement. So I'll show you that in a bit as well. So let's get started with our form. I'm going to do a real simple one, as I said. You can see actually this is pretty good. Microsoft has some suggestions. So obviously they've used AI and data from questions that have been asked in the past, or typical questions, and they've given you some suggested results based on the question that I've put in. So this is a training request. You can see here they put in things like supervisor, name of training, sponsoring unit or organization. So it's pretty clever actually, and it will give you suggested answers for things like choices as well. So I'm going to put in quite a simple one to start with. So let's do which product would you like training for? And we're going to start putting in some options here. Let's do SharePoint. And you can see, because it's recognized I'm selecting Microsoft tools here, it's actually suggested some other tools. So let's add some other options. Let's say OneDrive, Forms, and I've also got the option to add another option, which is something that frequently crops up. So I may need to collect some additional material. So I was going to type this in, but you can see it's suggesting these for me. So let's put in a full name. We'll also have, I think department would be useful. So we'll add those selected items, and you can see it's added those. Sorry, I didn't put in full names. Let me put that in. Name. I'm going to add a choice option here, and I'm going to use this to put a bit of branching logic in my form. So I'm going to say, would you like to add other attendees? So we can say yes, no, we don't want maybe. And the other thing you can see here at the bottom, I can allow people to select multiple answers, which I obviously don't want for a yes, no question. And I can make these required as well if I want. So people have to fill in those forms. So I'm going to make these required. And you can see here, would you like to add additional attendees? I'm going to add another question below this. So anyone who answers yes to that, I'm just going to give them a text box where they can write in some names. I'm just going to say additional. I'm going to say it's not required. And what I can actually do here is I can add some branching. So if I click on these three dots next to the question, I can actually come in here and say, okay, let's click add branching. And if they select yes, I'm going to go to additional attendees. And then I'm going to go to the end of the form if they select no. So I've created a really simple form here. I've added some branching logic. So we can actually go and test this straight away. So if I go into preview here, I can see what my form would look like for end users. I can also see what it would look like on a mobile device. So by default, this will just, it's a fully responsive design. So it will adapt the screen size based on the device you're viewing it on. So I can come in here and put in some information. You can see our branching logic here. If I choose yes, it gives me that option to add additional attendees. I don't want to, so I'm just going to hit no. Brilliant. So you can see that's my very simple form submitted. I get some other options here as well. So on the right hand side, I can see my responses. This gives me a nice kind of graphical interface. It's kind of like a bit of a Power BI dashboard. And I'll show you later in the integration. So you can actually embed this in a SharePoint site if you want to. I can also actually export this to Excel. So if I choose the option to export this to Excel, it will actually put the results into an Excel spreadsheet. I think I've got one here that I did earlier. So this is for a slightly more complex survey. So if you wanted to share this or do some other reporting on it, you can actually output your results to an Excel file as well. We've worked with customers in the past to extend this as well. So you could potentially push this data into a SharePoint list, and then you could have Power Automate to run additional processes at a later date as well. So that's definitely something to consider if you want to extend the options here. You can see this little icon here. That's there because we've added some branching logic to the form. So a couple of other things I'm going to do with this form. I'm going to click on the theme, and you can see because I've selected training, it's giving me some suggested themes which are related to training, which is quite neat. So I can choose one of these, and it gives me this kind of background which is appropriate to the subject. I can also choose one of the out-the-box themes if I wanted, or I could upload my own custom theme. So I'm just going to choose one of these suggested themes. So you can see we've already got our form. It's ready to go, and I can actually then go and share this with my colleagues. So we've got a few options on the sharing screen. First up, you can choose who can respond to this form. So I can open it up to anyone, and that means we can share this externally, and people outside of your organization who don't have Microsoft 365 licenses can fill out this form. They can actually do that without authenticating as well. So this might be a good thing if you want some feedback from customers. You can embed this in your website as embed code. You can see you've got the option here to grab embed code. So if I click on that, I can add this iframe to effectively any web page. I can share a direct link if I wanted to, and it even gives me the option to do things like shorten the URL, which is quite nice. I can share this with a QR code as well. So I've seen some useful use cases here whereby rather than us putting that poll into the Teams meeting, if this was a live event, I could put this QR code up on the screen and people would scan it with their phones and it would take them directly to the form. And actually, I've done this in a webinar before, a live event. As people respond, this dashboard is actually updated live, so you can have that up on the screen and see the results as they come through, which is quite neat. I can also add this directly into an email. If I wanted to invite, say, Steve to collaborate with me on this form, I can click this option here and basically give him that kind of owner access to this form. I can also use this to create a template. So maybe if I've created a form for my department that I think is really useful that I want to share with everyone else, I can duplicate that form and other people can pick it up and run with it. A couple of other settings in here that you might find useful. We've got the option to actually enable multilingual as well. So you can have your form displayed automatically in different languages, which I think is a really neat tool. We've also got some other settings. So if I click on the drop down, the three dots, and go to settings, I can make this an anonymous form if I want. So maybe if you want some honest feedback within your organisation, you can turn off the option to record names and maybe allow it one record per person, so someone can't skew the results, and you can get some honest feedback. I can also do things like put start dates and end dates into my form as well, and I can customize the response. So if you want to make this slightly more personal, you can say, thanks from the HR department. If you have any questions, please contact us on this email address. So there's quite a lot of customization available in this, and it's constantly progressing as well. So keep an eye on that Microsoft 365 roadmap, because there is some more stuff coming. I just wanted to show you what a slightly more kind of complex form looks like. So I've got a survey I created here, which is my Microsoft 365 adoption survey. And actually within this survey, I put in a description here. I've said that this is an anonymous form, so people can be honest about their answers. And I've also added some sections. So with sections, it breaks up the form into multiple pages. So when the users are actually going through the form, they get it paged rather than having to scroll through a big long list. And you can actually add a section by clicking on that drop down and choosing the section option. And then simply you can move your questions up and down into the various sections. So if I look at a preview of this form, you can see here I've got multiple pages, and that's achieved through those sections. So I'll just show you this particular form. This is all about Microsoft 365 adoption. So I've allowed multiple options on this one. So I'm asking for which tools people need training in. I'm asking them to rate the use of Microsoft 365 across the organization. And then I click next and it jumps me into the next section, which is on training. And again, I put some branching logic in here. And I can then, this is the Leica system that I mentioned. So I can then ask people what their knowledge of the various tools is. So I can say, okay, it's good, very good, not so good, need some more work, fair. And this is the ranking one that I mentioned as well. So I can rank my answers. I'll just submit this form. So if I go back, I've customized this response message as well. And if I go back, you can see because I've got more data in this, the graph is a bit more meaningful. So I can see this net promoter score, which gives me an idea of how positive or negative people are towards a particular question. It's based on the net promoter score. So detractors are those people that answer between 0 and 6. Passives are 7 and 8, and those promoters are kind of people that give it that 9 to 10 score. So you can see here that the graphics are really nice, and you can highlight various areas to get a feel for how people are responding to that. Next up, I wanted to show you a quiz. So a quiz, in terms of the actual design of the form, it works in very much the same way. But what I actually get to do with quizzes that I can't do with the forms is I can put correct answers in here, and I can also assign points to these as well. So if you want to weigh the responses, you can add different weightings to those answers. So I'm going to add another quick question here. Let's do a choice. This is a kind of Microsoft related quiz. So let's say, what percentage of the desktop operating system market did Microsoft have? Let's go 65, 72, one more, 81. Now I can actually come in here and mark 72% as the correct answer. I can also add points to this particular question. So I can say, okay, this is quite an important one, so I'm going to give this 15 points. And the way this works for end users, if I preview this form, they can come through and they can choose their answers. And when they hit submit, we can actually go through and view, I can view my results. So I can come in here and say, okay, wow, didn't do too well there. And you can see which is the right answer, which is the wrong answer. It's a nice way to kind of add quizzes and tests into your organization. As someone who owns the form, I can actually go through and review answers as well. So I can click into review answers, and I can go through each individual who's responded. So I think this is my most recent form. I can actually add comments to this. So I can say, close, must do better. Okay, so when I'm done, I can actually, as a owner of that survey, I can post the scores. So people can come back to that original link that they used to submit the form, and they can actually view their results. And if they preview it, they can actually see the comments that the person marking the form has given them, which I think is quite useful. So definitely something to consider there. Okay, so just having a look through my notes. Okay, so next up, I wanted to show you some of the integration options available within forms. And as I mentioned, there's a whole lot here. So I'm going to go over these quite quickly. If you want more information, please feel free to get in touch. But first off, I'm going to show you email. So this is a poll very similar to the one that we showed you in Teams. So if I go to create a new message, if I click on the three drop downs at the bottom here, you can see I've got an option to add a poll. And we can call this I can add that to the email, and then I can share that with my colleagues. So maybe I'm trying to arrange a night out, an event, or a Christmas lunch. I can use polls within my emails to organise that kind of content. You can also integrate it with Teams as well. So we showed you the integration within Teams in terms of adding a poll to a meeting, but I can actually go through to one of my teams, and I can add a form to one of my channels. So I'm going to click the option here to add a tab, and you can see one of the options available to me is forms. So I've got a couple of options here. I can create a new form from scratch. I can add an existing form, so you can see some of the forms that I just showed you. And we've got an interesting one here, which is this recurring survey. And this is a fairly new feature. So we can do things, and this is all focused around that kind of employee well-being, now that we're in that kind of hybrid work environment. So for this example, I'm going to show you this employee well-being measurement. So I can come through here and on a set schedule, I can ask people to check in and let me know as their manager how they're feeling. There's some process automation behind this, which we can also configure. But this is a nice way of kind of adding those forms into your Teams channels and getting some really good integration. So unfortunately, due to time restraints, I can't spend too much time focusing on some of these demos, but another one I wanted to show you is the SharePoint integration. So if I create a new page, let's just create a blank page. there is a web part that you can deploy for Microsoft Forms. So if I come in here, I can search for forms. So I can embed an existing form. If I grab the link, let me copy that link. So I can embed a form directly in a SharePoint page. And I've got two options here. I can actually collect the responses, or I can actually show the form responses. So maybe after we've completed the survey, I can come in here and show some responses. I've also got the option to add forms within PowerPoint. So within PowerPoint, you should see an option to add a form. Let me just reload this. And again, I can add a form or a quiz, or I can add one that we've recently deployed to one of our sites. One additional one that I wanted to show you that I think is quite well hidden and not that well known about, and that is the actual ability to integrate with Stream. So maybe I've got a training video. So I've got one here about adaptive cards within Teams. I'm just going to pause this so it doesn't play. I can actually go into interactivity and I can add a form to my stream video. So I can grab a quiz. Let's grab this one. I can paste the URL of that form here. I can put a quiz in, and you can actually build this out so you can have just single questions or multiple forms spread across your video. And then I can add to timeline. And then what this will do, if I go back to the beginning of the video and hit play, it will, I put it right at the beginning, so it's not going to show me. There we go. You can see it will actually jump into the form. So it will pause the video, ask me to complete the form, and then I can click continue, and it will load the rest of the video. So hopefully you found that useful. So I think I'll stop on the demo now. Hopefully I've given you a good overview of the features available. A couple of tips that I think I've mentioned along the way, but one of those is the ability to view live results. So if you post up that QR code, and you can share that results page, and it will show you results as they come through. Add some branching logic to your forms as well, so that you can reduce the amount of questions that users have to ask. Use these forms to engage users inside and outside your organization. So this can be customers, suppliers. You can embed them in your websites. And if you want to kind of take these processes to the next level, you can use things like Power Automate and SharePoint lists to push that data into other repositories. So hopefully that's been useful. I'll just pass over to Steve in terms of how best to get hold of us. But yeah, thanks.
Cheers, Daniel. And thanks everyone for joining. I hope you found today's session useful. We have on the screen a QR code which actually launches a Microsoft form for feedback on the webinars, because it's great to get some feedback to see how we're doing as part of this mini series. So feel free to scan that. The video will be posted online as well later. So as part of our mini series, we've got a couple of different Microsoft 365 tools that are coming up. We're actually having a bit of a break for a week, and we'll be back on Thursday the 5th of August, and that'll be looking at Outlook and calendar boards within Outlook as well. So a really exciting schedule and events coming up. The full schedule is available on LinkedIn. Again, it will be posted out in the event channel, so anyone who wants to see that schedule will be able to grab that. And if anyone would like to get in touch, obviously you can just reach out to myself or Daniel on LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to talk through any parts of the series. But thanks for turning up, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.